Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Swarez HQ. This is the 2019 Gallery and Studio Tour. Buckle up, it's going to be a hell of a ride. Come on in and join me. Okay, let's go. So this is the main part of the gallery. Now we built this, started building it about 4 or 5 years ago, just as really a means to an end. The paintings don't sit well when they're compressed under their own weight, so I wanted to get a few walls up so I could just at least hang them. But of course when you start to put one wall up and you think, oh, that looks pretty good, you then go ahead and start building everything else and stick the rest of them up. So I thought, well, because I'm blessed with a big space, it probably made a whole heap of sense just to carry on building and stick all the walls up. So, like I say, main part of the gallery, kind of always rehanging this on a regular basis. But that's good, you know, you've got to keep things kind of moving all the time. And the light is brilliant here. If you manage to come and see it, even on quite an overcast day, which what it is today, the light is spectacular. So that's really good. I don't paint under the natural light, unfortunately, but what it does do is really show the paintings off just amazingly well. Anyway, let's have a look at some more. So if you can hear kind of electric drills and all kinds of things going on here, I don't know if you can or not, I just want to apologise because we're having some renovation work done on the building. So I'm not quite sure what's going to be picked up on the microphone, but hey-ho, we'll just get on regardless. We'll talk over the top of it. So continuing through the gallery then, one of my favourite sort of mini projects, aside from the paintings, over the last couple of years has been the sculpture. Now, I've always, well, since I started painting, wanted to do something that was a bit more three-dimensional. You can do such a lot with paint and canvas, which is a brilliant series of materials to work in, but I kind of had to exercise that desire to get that kind of 3D thing out. So these are aluminium. They're hand-formed, and they are a lot of work to do, but they're fun, and they're happy, and they're exciting, and I'm very much into space and physics, so they've all got holes in them. I kind of like the whole space and black hole thing going on. I think physics is never too far away from a lot that goes into my work. So, yeah, just celebrating the natural world and the wonders of what goes on. I sound like Professor Brian Cox now. It's so wonderful, the universe. Anyway. So I've got a little bit more sculpture in this part. And again, loads and loads of light, which is fantastic. That is my Jackson Pollock replica. There's lots of information on the site about that. And it's a version of one of his best, probably greatest strip works called Blue Poles. Big story, won't go into it right now, but it's faithfully recreated with all the materials he used to use in the 1950s. And despite academics telling me that this couldn't be done, well, surprise, it can be done, and it was done. So one of the big projects of 2018 has been carbon fibre, which you can see on the wall behind me. It's one of those amazing materials that you can do so much with. Now, you normally see it in the automotive industry on high-end supercars, accessory packs for sports cars, that kind of thing. But it's a structural material, and it's also used on a great many different things. However, at the start of 2018, I wanted to kind of take carbon fibre into a realm that goes beyond making it sort of sculptural, which a few artists do, and actually wanted to make a bit of, I don't know, a fusion between what I do on a daily basis and bringing carbon fibre in. And these 7 artworks have taken pretty much almost a year to create. But, I mean, under the spotlights, and when you can actually physically see them, they're the most insane kind of effects and finishes. They get 3D and the way that they've been layered with the material and the resin. They're just, I think they're mind-blowing. And I'm not saying that whether you assess them as being good, bad, whether you like them or not, but as a collection of materials and as a principle and as a series of techniques which I haven't genuinely seen anywhere else in the world, I just think they're extraordinary. So if you manage to come here, we can talk about that and have a look at them, because I love them. I think they're amazing. And again, we've been learning with things like casting resin, rare earth pigments, and this beautiful stuff called carbon fibre, which comes on a sheet, which is basically a material. So there's a little room over there where it's all done, which is a room that we can use to stabilise the environment, because it has to dry at a certain temperature, or cure at a certain temperature. Anyway, that's in there. So that's like the resin room. So we've had to separate a small area out in the building just to do that. Then we've got some nice sofas here, 2 coffee machines, because let's be honest, one just isn't enough. Interesting thing of note is this, which is, I don't really know how you would describe it or what you would call it, but these are cast resin blocks, individually sanded and finished and arranged and then set into this casting resin with a small metallic flake in it. I don't even know how you would classify that as an artwork, but it's something that I love, and I think it's happy and it's colourful and it's semi-sculptural, as you can see by how deep it comes out of the back. But it's a combination of materials I haven't seen anyone using before. So I've got a few of these planned this year, and if you come here, hopefully you'll be able to see a small sort of selection of them when you do. But I just think they're a really happy thing. I mean, I could probably wake up every day and stare at that on my way down to have my breakfast and think, oh, gosh, I can't be unhappy when I look at that. I just think they're great. But this is all about colour. The whole place is all based around colours and shapes and my love of them. That's it, really. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you might have noticed this long silver piece of ducting. Now, this is here because it's part of the heater that heats up this part of the gallery. It does get incredibly cold during the winter months, so that's why normally most days have to run the heater. So that's why this is here, because it is quite cold today, hence why I've got a hat on, because my head gets cold. But we've affectionately called that Nunu. And if you've got kids and you watch the Teletubbies, then there's every possibility that you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So Nunu sits in here all day long and just tries to stop us from getting icicles on our noses and our eyebrows. Anyway, that's Nunu. Now we are going to go into the second part of the gallery. Here we go. Come. This is what I affectionately refer to as the back room. So as a busy working artist, I'm always creating and, fingers crossed, always selling stuff. So this is more of a working space, albeit it contains a lot of pieces of art in here. So as we move around this bit, I'll explain some of the works in progress, why some stuff is on the floor, but predominantly this is everything else that isn't in there. One thing I like to kind of point out is the fact that everything goes onto little trolleys, and these are clothes rails which I bought off Amazon, but actually they're a brilliant solution, to be honest, because you can literally just move anything anywhere whenever I want. So if a client is coming and they want to see a particular painting, we can arrange it and then maybe bring it out to where the light's at its best. So it's just a clever little solution, really. So I think we'll just have a little kind of wander around. There is a number of canvases sat on the floor over here, and these are part of a range of smaller paintings that I've done, which will have a finished size of 80 centimetres square, so just kind of under 3 feet square. And again, a bit like the sculpture, I'm utterly fascinated by circles and this whole kind of, you know, whatever you call that. So the vast majority of these are kind of circles and done in that kind of radial pattern. But they're quite happy to sit on the floor. They'll just sit there until I'm ready to pop them around the frames, which is great. Some big works, some new works, some smaller works. Round the corner here, I can only reveal a little bit about this, but as we speak now in early 2019, these 10 small 80 centimetre examples are destined for a portfolio for a globally recognised brand, a very high-end brand. I can't say who that is at the moment because we're still in the process of figuring out how everything's going to work, etc. But it's a global brand. I'm going to be an official supply partner for them for abstract art, and it's very exciting. This is really going to open up, I think, Swarez to a lot of new markets and a lot of new people who might not have seen this before. So that's really exciting. I just can't tell you who it's for. But these are the samples for them, so at least you can see them anyway. So we'll come back and have a look through the behind the scenes in a moment. Let me just take you through some of the other things that we've got kind of lying around. So this, the big green one on the bottom, again, I can't reveal too much about that at the moment, but that's for a client with a very, very specific brief. This client loves malachite. If you don't know what malachite is, go look it up on Wikipedia. It's a semi-precious stone. The most amazing, I mean, malachite is ridiculous. It's like a lot of these stones that you make things out of. But go and have a look at it anyway. So we're replicating that. That's what that's there for. That's ready to be photographed. We've got some of the malachite testing canvases on here. There's a lot of testing and a lot of experimenting that goes on here. I mean, like, you know, what you see is the tip of an iceberg, but the iceberg is just so big underneath the water. It's what I have to do just to get things done. It is ridiculous. Behind these two is the photograph wall. So it's a movable structure which we can bring out into the light, and this is where everything gets photographed. I'm going to launch a video soon about how to photograph your art, and then that gives this area and how I do the photographing in a lot more detail. So be sure to check that out. I'll pop a link down below for you to have a look at that. And then any other canvases which are just kind of dotted around are works in progress or just waiting to be photographed or stretched around the frames. Brilliant. Okay, so now you've seen most of what goes on in the back room with the pretty stuff. Let's go and have a look at some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. So I don't normally make this kind of thing public, not for any reason because there's any kind of vast secret here or anything, but I've never really thought anyone's really that interested in it. But seeing as we're doing the full tour, let me explain what's going on. So there are some canvases here, which is part of a client commission. Always paint 2. Every commission is a very minimum. So this client is 2 in at the moment, waiting for feedback. So there's 2 variations on the brief that they've given me. So that's what those are doing there. I love to work on big stuff. Big is good. And a couple of canvases I'm not really sure what I'm doing with. Down at the end there's canvas in storage. So I tend to roll things around tubes, which is a really good way of storing canvases that aren't on frames. So that's what the Christmas tree that Adi built. I always call this the storage Christmas tree. So there's stuff that's been destapled. There's stuff that's just not on frames at the moment, and quite a number of canvases which I don't really know what I'm going to do with. But Storing them is important. You can come back to them another day. Belt sander, lathe, air compressor, tools, chisels, sanding machine, a polishing machine, extraction system we've put in, table saw, stretcher bars, blank canvas, storage of stretcher bars, all kinds of stuff, an old computer that I need to change the power supply for, plus all manner of packing materials. Always need timber, so there's always a supply of timber. I've got a router table, I've got, ladies and gents, it just literally doesn't stop. You know, really interested in things like doing resin sculpture this year. So whilst it's not a major priority, there's just a little sample of something with it. That's got 1,000, I think 1,000 or 2,000 Swarovski crystals in it. And wanted to do something just to test whether the theory could be done. But the hope is that goes into something quite big with some backlighting. Boom! Who doesn't like a bit of bling? So that's interesting. Lots of other kind of semi-experiment things here. There's bowls and vases, and we're still experimenting in the in the casting of resin stages. You know, how to turn that into sculpture. It's, you know, the mind just never stops. I think if your mind stops and you just settle with what you're doing, I think that becomes quite a boring existence. Anyway, so here is the stretching and the framing table. So when canvases come in from the pod, they go onto here and they're stretched around the frames. So there's frames everywhere. At that end is things like pigment and resin and all manner of tools and moulds. And the tools we have is just ridiculous, but we need tools to be able to get things done. You know, and when you're operating at that sort of like outer edge of what's possible, you're constantly investing in new materials, new tools, new techniques, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But that's kind of where the investment has to go into. And when you're pushing boundaries, nothing ever gets cheap, unfortunately. It's all expensive stuff. And there you can see another block one that's had the blocks sanded, ready to go. But now I'm kind of deciding on what kind of arrangement to have them in, ready for the resin pours. So that's more of the block work. And then out here, just pretty much everything that isn't painting related. I mean, that's pretty much it. So that is this kind of L shape in the back room. So again, if you do decide to come here, I'll show you all this stuff and what goes on. It'll probably look an awful lot different when you get here. But yeah, this is where the vast majority of work is done. And probably, I would say probably 70% of our time is actually out here. Okay, still with me? Excellent. Now you're ready for the exciting bit. Okay, let's go and see the paint room. Right, you still with me? Because this is the exciting bit coming up now. Just before we go into the paint pod, I just want to show you something. So we have calendars made every year, of which this is the desk one. We also do a wide format, large one for the walls. But you may not know that the company that do these, called Allen and Bertram, are one of the world's greatest calendar suppliers. In actual fact, this has been nominated for 2 awards and won in 2016 as Best Art Calendar, the World Calendar Awards, which is something not a lot of people know, but I'm really dead chuffed with that. So although this video isn't sponsored by anyone, if you have any need for corporate calendars and that kind of merchandise, then Allen and Bertram really are the go-to people. I mean, the quality of what they do is just utterly magnificent. And anyone who's had a calendar has always said, oh, I love this. This is so nice. I'm going to keep this like forever. Anyway, just worth a mention because they're a great, great company to work with. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the pod, ladies and gents. This is the bit. This is the final bit on the tour, if you get here, that is the bit that really everybody really loves. Even if they don't think they love it, they love it. So the paint room was specifically built to house this paint pod. And the paint pod, really, in its simplest terms, is just a great big it's a great big tent. I'll get it right. And this tent is built to the same spec as they use in the nuclear waste industry. And there's a very good reason for that, and that's because of the paints. So my paints are enamel paint. don't know if you know that or not. And the problem with them is whilst they are absolutely amazing and brilliant and you get to do all of that with it, they will kill you. Unfortunately, the enamel paints have two really nasty chemicals in them. These chemicals are present on contact with air because they're an air-drying paint. So one of which is a carcinogen, not good, and the other one is heavier than air. So theoretically, if you ingest enough of it, you can suffocate. So as you can appreciate, they have to work in some very, very strictly controlled conditions. So all this and everything you're about to see now, ladies and gentlemen, is purely so I can literally open a tin of paint. Now what you can see here are the wall tethers, and the wall tethers are there for one specific reason, and that's because I have to run an extraction system. What I'm actually doing is sucking more air out than I'm taking in. So the tent is always trying to suck itself into a tiny ball. So in order to prevent that, it has to be tethered to the building, and it's tethered, I think, in about eight places. Anyway, we won't put the extractor on, because if I put the extractor on, you're never going to hear my voice. But bear in mind, as we go into the pod now, and we are going to go in, I'd normally be operating with about a 90 decibel extractor on in my ears. So not only have I got the noise, not only do I have to wear a full face breathing mask, which I'll show you when I go in, but I'm also in an environment that has no natural light, just fluorescent light, and it's cold because of the airflow. So I've got all these things to contend with literally before I ever open a tin of paint. Right, you ready? Let's go in. Let's do this. So we have, on the outside, there's what I call a clean room. So the clean room, I say clean in inverted commas, what the clean bit means is this is the last point at which, as I come out covered with the toxic vapours, that I can get rid of clothing and leave the clothing contained in here, so it doesn't then go out into the main part of the gallery. So it's the last bit of containment, if you like. Now I'm going to show you my paint mask. There's lots of pictures of this dotted around the website, but I'll show you, especially when Adrian is in the pod with me mixing whatever, cutting canvas. We have to communicate with a 90 decibel extractor on, both of us wearing masks, and I'm going to put the mask on now so you can see just how garbled everything sounds. It'll make my head go cold now, so here we go. I've no idea what you're going to be able to hear, but this is how I paint. I've still got the microphone on. So that's it. So when I go in for a paint session for 2 or 3 hours, I've got to have the mask on, I've got all my paint clothes on, I've got rubber gloves on, I've got all the noise. And yes, this is it, ladies and gentlemen, this is it with the mask. This is what I do for a living. Also worthy of note, I'll show you my paint shoes. Actually, I'll probably take that off now. I mean, check those. There we go. Check those bad boys out. For the past 4 years, they have been in every single painting session. And some would say they're the greatest work of art of them all. Maybe they'll make it to auction one day. But yeah, so I'm quite pleased with my paint shoes. Okay, let's go straight in, ladies and gentlemen, to the actual main part of the pod. And here we go. This is where everything gets painted. I'm going to pop the lights on. Now in here, actually, when you've got the lights on and everything going, you don't know whether it's day, whether it's night. You literally could be anywhere on the planet because there is no external output from anything. So in many ways, that's a really good thing because I can just isolate myself and switch off. So behind me, we've got the paints that I use. These are my beloved enamel paints, the things that really form the backbone of everything that goes on here. And these are mixed by a local company for me, but it's a recipe that's uniquely my own, so nobody else knows it. This is the mixing station, which has got which has got about 8 years worth of paint on it, which is great. I hope I never have to part with that. It's become like a family heirloom, that has. Yeah, so essentially then, when we've got everything sealed up and the extractor on, the sides start to suck themselves in as the air pressure regulates. So I am led to believe that when the extractor is running at full capacity, that there is about a 3% reduction in the amount of oxygen in here because of the negative pressure, which is, I think, the equivalent of being at the top of Ben Nevis or something like that. So there is a slight oxygen reduction as well. But also bear in mind, ladies and gents, when I'm working on all the intricate stuff and I've got needles and syringes, and I promise you I am not joking. I promise you I use non-hypodermic needles for some of the really accurate and tricky stuff. That's just one of the tools I use. But so here we go. So picture this. Next time you're doing something nice and creative and it's all pleasant, or you've got the radio on or something like that, I'm sat here with all the noise of the extractor in a cold environment with my face mask on my hands and knees, and bearing in mind I'm quite old now, so my arthritis kicking in, and I'm on my hands and knees. It could be in the middle of the night with a needle and syringe down on the canvas. I mean, I don't know if this is utter madness or insanity, and to be honest with you, you could look at this and think, why do you even bother? But it's different, and somehow it all works, and you get to produce the stuff that's out there that you've already seen. So I think, you know, from a why do you bother point of view, well, why wouldn't you? I mean, this is just, it's a very cool space. It's taken a lot to get to this point, but this is what the pod is. This is the bit you can isolate from the entire world and create. And I think that's exactly what I need to do. So that's that. We've explained about the paints. The canvas is a specially made item as well. Because of the unique properties of the paint, I have to get the canvas specially made for me as well. In fact, the only part of this process that is off the shelf is the stretcher bars, the timber frames that they go on. But everything else pretty much is unique. It's bespoke. So, ladies and gents, that's the pod. And that's the floor in the pod as well. I wonder if I should just put that around a frame, because that's pretty insane as well. But yeah, there we go. So that is almost the entire tour complete. So I think now we'll go back out, and I'll just show you around the last bit, and there we go. Right. Okay. I hope you're still with me after that. Okay. See it out. Beautiful. So the last thing we're going to have a look at, ladies and gentlemen, I say look at, it's only an office, but that's where all the admin and the website stuff is done. I only mention that because as an artist who self-represents, the most critical thing is the website, because without that, there is no business. So we'll have to try and make the office as comfortable as possible. It's a working office, so there's lots of things going on in there. But there's a couple of computers and all kinds of stuff going on, but basically that's just it. But it's nice and warm, and I can get work done in here, and it's another little bit of a part of the building which you'll see, and hopefully we can come in here and have a cup of tea if you want. Oh, and yes, you've got to have a little bit of fun, haven't you? So, I really hope you've enjoyed what has been probably quite an extensive tour for 2019, but that's given you an idea of what goes on at Swarez HQ. I'd love to see you here one day, so if you do ever want to come, please drop me an email, give me a call. It's by appointment, but that's only because I like to give you plenty of opportunity to have time with me, to have the proper tour when you come here. So look, thank you so much for your time. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe down below. That would be brilliant. More videos, more exciting things to come in 2019. Thank you for your time today, and I really hope to see you soon.